Alright, in this video I'm going to show you how to take your puzzle cube parts that you've hopefully already created in Inventor and assemble them in an assembly file using that same piece of software. I'm going to start by opening Inventor and coming out to my little flyout window for a new part and choose Assembly. While that's opening, I'm going to reference the fact that this is my top, this is my front, and this is my right side. So my ISO view of it, top, front, right, should look like this. I'll refer to this part as my white part. I'll refer to this part as my yellow part. This part is my blue part. This one is red, and this one is my green part. This is an assembly already created by a student in one of my classes. First thing I'm going to do is place a component. Now, if your window doesn't pop up like this for you to place a component, it is likely that your drop-down window for place is somewhere on Content Center or Place iLogic component. Just make sure that you've selected place or hit P on your keyboard. Once that pops up, you want to navigate to wherever it is that you've saved your files. For me, I've kept them in the Student Puzzle Cube folder that I have, in which I have my Puzzle Cube grid, the blue, the green, the red, the white, and the yellow part, all created using that same grid file as I showed before. Alright, I'll start with a file that I want to have dropped in, and it doesn't really matter which one it is at this point. Nowadays with Inventor, you can select multiple parts all at the same time, but just to show you the first time through, I'll pick one of them. So my yellow part, I'll click on it, and then I can click to place it. It immediately takes me to a top, front, right orientation that is based on how I made that part. Okay, so once it's in, I need its brother parts. I need the other components. So I'll choose place again, and this time I'll hold Control, and I'll select the blue, the green, the red, and the white part, and open them all at the same time. And you'll notice that it looks like it's already assembled them together, kind of a hodgepodge of parts put together. I'll right-click and say OK. But if you look at it from a right side view here with the view cube, you'll see that they're not actually together. You can also see that in the front view. Use the home button to get back to the ISO view, and these I can freely move about. I can also freely move the yellow one. Now, I want to try and orient these in a way that's going to make sense, so I'm going to keep my white part here. I'll keep my yellow part off to the side here, the blue one over here, and I'll just move the green one back like that. So, yellow one I'm going to move down here, white one I'll move over to here, green over to here, and blue, yep, you're where I want you, and red, we'll just keep you somewhere in the middle. Now the red part appears to be the one that is the most interior. This is the piece of the red part that sticks up in the middle of the puzzle cube. The white one stands up like so and attaches itself to the red one, but not in a way that touches any of the faces, only by touching those edges. So that won't really work for what we want. But the white one and the green one do touch, and then the red one winds up touching. Oh look, it does touch the white one. It touches it there. Well, that's good. You see, if you don't have the parts with you to be able to make the assemblies, it can be a little more confusing. So it fits together like that. Now, I could make the white one touch the red. I could make it come in and assemble to the green. I could even take the white one and ignore the red one and make the white and the yellow touch. Any of them that touch, you can work with. But I like to start with the piece, the part that is most interior. In this case, the red part. So, I'll choose the red part by right-clicking on it and telling it to be grounded. This is going to remove all of its degrees of freedom. So when I hover over it, I get this little push pin. Completely locks it down. Can't move it. The white part, however, I can still move. As soon as I lock it down to the red part, it won't move along with it. It will stay as long as I've locked it down completely and removed its 6 degrees of freedom. It will stay right where I told it to. So the next thing I want to do is choose Constrain. Now with Constrain, I have mates, which I can do a mate-mate, which means the two faces are touching each other, like the back of this red one and the front of this white one. They'll touch, okay? Or in this case, this face, which is an L shape, anywhere as long as it's touching that same plane will be a mate. As long as they're touching in the same plane. They can move this way, but I can't separate them because they're mated together. Now it's different than a flush. If I were to flush this face and this face, then it would flip one of them around, probably the white one, so that they stayed flush with each other, which means that they exist at the same plane with one another. That's a little hard to understand until you see it happen. So let me give you a demonstration of this. Alright, I'm going to mate, but I'm going to mate flush. So a mate flush of this white part right here to the back of the red, and watch, one of them will turn around backwards. And it was the white one that turned around backwards. Notice how, if I apply this, and then close that window, and I look at it from a right side view, they are now on the same plane with each other. The back face of that red and this face of the white are now on the same plane with one another. It is recording that, by the way, in my browser, where it records my history, and you'll see that that's now a shared flush between the two of them. I can edit that flush, and I can come back and say, you know what, I want to clear out my selections, so 1, 2, 1, choose for it to be a mate, and apply it between this face and this face, and it'll flip it back around for me. I could have also undone, back to the point where I could do it again, or when I edit the flush, could have just chosen for it to be a mate instead of a flush. Once I hit OK, it'll save it. Now, that constrains it in only one way. I can't pull it away from the object, but I can pull it up and down, and if I go to the front view, I can move it left and right. So with one mate constraint, I've removed the degree of freedom that is a translation in the Z direction in this case. So I also want to constrain it so that it doesn't move in the X nor in the Y direction. Now that's a little trickier, but you can do it. See if you can follow along. Constrain. I like mate flushes most of the time, so let's see what I can do here. I know that the right side face here needs to be attached to this right side face here. And then I will apply that. And I'll continue along by mating or flushing other faces. Now you'll see I can only move it in this up and down direction. Well, if I go back to this and I look and see that it has to touch it like so. To keep it from going up and down, I can take the bottom faces of the red and the white and flush them with one another so that they stay on the same plane, so that they sit like so. And let's see. Since I like using flush, let's try that. I can flush the bottom of the red, this L shape, anywhere on there, with this bottom square of the right. Notice now how they're flush to each other, just like that. I'll say apply and keep moving along with the rest of my mates or flushes with my constraints. Let's put the green one in. So it slides in just like this. Now what I'll find is that the bottom of the white and the green are flush. Bottom of the white and the green are flush. Bottom of the green and red are flush. The tops of the red and the green are flush with each other as well. And this face is mated to this face. Or I could say this face is mated to this face. They're in the same position. I could also say, since I like flush, that this face is flush with this red one. They sit on the same plane with one another. So let's try that. Flush. Let's see. If I hold F4, I get my free orbit. I can come around to here, click, press F4 again, and I want to say that it's flush with this face. And then I want to apply. Let's see. Yep. Come up from the bottom, flush those. Yep, I like that. And I will flush this face to here. And I should find, much like my picture down here in the corner, it looks just like that. And if I say apply or OK and it closes the window, you'll see that I can't move any of those three. I get a push pin for the red one and a no symbol, circle with a line through it saying nope, you can't move those parts. Alright, so it looks just like this does. Here's my isometric. Yeah, except for this piece, obviously. Let's put the yellow one in. So the yellow one, top's flush with the white. And I'll apply that. The top is now flush with the white. This guy slides in, so I could say that the right side faces are flush. So let's see. 1, 2, apply. But you'll notice that the yellow wants to impede onto the white's area or surface, but that's okay. I can still move them in this direction. And if I notice that the yellow and the red, they are flush with each other as well, down here where my thumb is, if I can get it out of the way for you, these are flush with each other. So I'll flush those. Flush, yellow, red. Say OK. It doesn't move. Good to go. Let's put the blue in. I'll flush the blue so that it is sitting in here like this. I'll flush the front face with either the yellow or the red, just like this. So flush blue with either yellow or red. I can do the green too. Let's do the green. Alright. I'll apply and I'll flush the top with either the yellow or the white. I'll go with the white. And then I'll apply and I'll flush the right sides together. Not worried about the fact that the blue is intersecting with the yellow or the red, which you can't see on the inside. Once I apply or say OK and it applies and closes the window, check to make sure none of these move, and I'm good to go. I then would save this file as an assembly. So I would go to save. Since I haven't saved the file yet, still calling it assembly up here, it'll ask me what do you want to save it, and I'll say that I want to call this, I don't know, Puzzle Cube Assembly. And you can give it whatever name you want as long as it's identifiable. You could even just call it Puzzle Cube, and since it's saving it as a .iam, anything else that you call just Puzzle Cube, it'll have a different extension behind it, so we'll be able to identify it. It's up to you as long as it's identifiable by you or your team.